Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back to TechNest. This week we have Cortney Gumbleton with us. Cortney is the founder and co-owner of Locavore Fort Worth, a startup for startups. Locavore is a shared commercial kitchen incubator for foodies. Its mission is to give small food entrepreneurs the tool to make it big. So Cortney, welcome. We're so happy to have you with us. And we would love for you just to share a little bit more about yourself, your background, and all the kind of different careers that you've been a part of.
Sure, absolutely. In addition to Locavore, I'm also a spokesmodel for LaCroix. No, I'm just kidding. I love LaCroix though, to all my LaCroix people out there. Well, really happy to be here. So I ended up in Texas back in 2003 when I was stationed here for the military. So after 9/11, I just felt called to serve. And so I joined the Navy and worked as a military police officer out here at the base. And yeah, so I was active duty for 2 tours for 7 years and met my husband. He was the SWAT commander of the base, moving on up. And I was just this lowly patrol officer. Anyways, yeah, we had our son in Fort Worth, and I used my Montgomery GI Bill to go to college at TCU. Went for the School of Social Work, got my master's in social work, focusing at the macro level, so community and administrative practice. And after that, after grad school, I went back to TCU and I worked in student affairs in the counseling and mental health department. So I ran their suicide prevention program called Are You Okay? And after that, I was offered a job as a CEO of a nonprofit foundation called the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation that specializes in depression research and suicide prevention. And honestly, I kind of reached a point where I was ready to leave the nonprofit world. And in the meantime, my husband was deployed in Jordan, and I sold our house in Fort Worth that we had built a few years prior, and I bought a farm out in Azle. And that first weekend that I bought the farm, my son at the time, I think he was 11, he wanted to go to Tractor Supply, and which is a staple out here in Azle. And so we went and bought some baby chicks and brought them home, and one thing turned into another, and 23 weeks later I ended up with a shit ton of eggs, and I couldn't give these eggs away fast enough. Okay, I would bring them to the Rotary Club downtown on Fridays and give them away for free. I give them away to friends. I mean, ask Amy, she got a bunch of eggs. And then I started selling them for $7 a dozen for farm fresh eggs, which is pretty high, but I started selling them through a Facebook group called Tanglewood Moms. And so I put a couple pictures of my chickens and the eggs and the custom packaging that I had created. And I posted a picture, and within 24 hours, I had over 50 people on the wait list wanting these eggs. They wanted weekly deliveries, bi-weekly. And so here I found myself after Rotary Club on Fridays, driving around the Tanglewood neighborhood, dropping off all of these eggs. And it's funny because they'd pay me through Venmo. And when I was done, I'd look at my Venmo account and I'm like, man, I was driving around for like 3 hours and I only have $108 in my Venmo account. So I was thinking, I wonder what else I can do using my property. We bought 7 acres. What else can I create and sell to the public just for some, side cash? And I came up with wanting to sell simple syrups, which is funny because I've never actually made a simple syrup before. I still to this day have never made it, but like I'm pretty sure that I could because it's just sugar and water and whatever the ingredient is. Anyway, so I came up with this idea for a business called Wild Crafting, developed the marketing for it, and decided I was going to use ingredients on my property that were already growing, like juniper. We have juniper bushes, tons of honeysuckle, and that I would sell these. I would market and sell these to craft cocktail bars downtown. Well, I did a little bit more research and found out that in order to sell retail or wholesale to these folks, that I would need to have the product produced in a commercial kitchen. I didn't really know what that was. So I started looking around at commercial kitchens in Fort Worth. And one of the first things that popped up was Z's Cafe and Catering, which Carlo Capua, I don't know if any of you guys know him, but he ran that with his mother. And apparently after hours, they had rented out their commercial kitchen by the hour. Well, that was definitely an option, but I was hoping that, you know, since I had this new business and I had never had a business before, that I could, you know, find a commercial kitchen, but also have mentoring and somebody help with business planning and marketing and creating a website and, you know, pricing and menus and contracts and all of these things that I had no idea how to do. And I started reading a little bit more about commercial kitchens, and I read about something that stemmed back to the 1960s called the commercial kitchen incubator model, which was actually developed in Washington, D.C. to, quote, spur economic development. Well, when I read that, I just had a light bulb, because this was in February of 2018. And at this time, this was when the city of Fort Worth and the chamber and Visit Fort Worth, everybody was getting together to partner on Fortify, their strategic plan, and investing in entrepreneurs. So I was like, oh my gosh, instead of renting this kitchen, I could create this home for food entrepreneurs. All those people out there like me that need a commercial kitchen to cook in, but they also need guidance. And I just thought, man, I could actually use my social work skills with these folks, you know, meet them where they are and ask them where they want to be and help them create a plan to get there. And so I reached out to Carlo, and I, in the meantime, had been offered a space, which is now Locavore's headquarters. And I reached out to Carlo and I gave him my my pitch deck. I did a pitch deck, and he was really impressed. And I asked him if he wanted to tour the space. So he toured the space with me, and he was like, wow, this is really impressive. I said, I already have investors lined up. Just through my talks with friends, I had about 4 people who had said that they had wanted to become investors. And so I told Carlo about it, and he was like, well, how much money do you have? And I said, I'm going to take $10,000 from my husband's retirement fund, which I'm not saying is like the best move to make, but I did it. And trust me, I've paid that in a whole lot more. So it ended up being a smart choice. But he said, well, I'll match your 10 grand and we can become partners, and we don't need any investors. And really, that's how it happened. We opened up Locavore like 1 month later. So it's pretty wild.
Oh my gosh, in 1 month. Holy cow. Oh, that's cool. I've never heard the story of how you and Carlo formed that relationship. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Cool.
it can happen really fast. I mean, I came up with the concept in February of 2018. In March, I started meeting with people, you know, kind of doing it. I did a needs assessment, sent that out to about 150 food entrepreneurs to ask them, you know, well, what do you need? And in April, I did all of the legal formation. Big shout out to Doug Clayton. I have to say, I reached out to Doug and told him that I was friends with Hayden, and he helped me out. So I really appreciate you, Doug. You were instrumental. But yeah, so we did that in April. In May, we signed the lease on our space, and Carlo came on board. In June, you know, we bought everything and worked on all the contracts, and then we opened up July 1.
Oh my goodness. So I mean, you know, we're already talking about relationships. Can you talk about some of the other relationships that were super instrumental to the formation and then the continual success of Locavore over the years?
Absolutely. Yeah. Relationships are key. I mean, they're everything to me. And they're really everything, not just in business, but in life. I mean, there's a lot of research that shows that people live longer, not because of wealth or their job, but because of the relationships that they have in their life, that sense of community. And I grew up with a great sense of community. In the military, there's a ton of camaraderie, and then going into TCU, as you know, there's a lot of camaraderie and support and connections. And I would say TCU is really where I started to understand how these connections pay off. Through, I wouldn't have gotten my job had it not been through, recommendations and connections and all of that. Sorry, my son's coming home from school. Hey, I'm on a call, just so you know. But yeah, relationships through the Rotary Club. I mean, I have a bunch of friends on here through Women's Policy Forum, through Rotary Club. But yeah, even in business, we've had partnerships. Through the Fort Worth Business Plan competition, we made really great relationships with people. One of which, who I met through there, she ended up painting a gorgeous mural on this huge wall that we have inside of Locavore that probably would have cost around $25,000. And I think I spent maybe $200 for the paint. So
that's a stunning mural. I mean, it really stands out. I love that.
But it's really just all through these relationships. And I don't want to jump ahead, but I know that one of your questions asks, like kind of like a piece of advice. And I would have to say it would be, when you approach a relationship, and this is a long-term thing. This isn't a short-term thing. Bruce knows more than anybody. When you approach a relationship, always have the mindset of what can you do for that individual, not what can that individual do for you. And for me, that's the big difference with networking. Networking is one of those big buzzwords, but networking is really its basis. They say it's forming relationships, but really I think in the back of people's minds, it's what can I get from this person? What can they do for me? But if we approach things of what can I do for this person, that means you can ask for a favor later. And that favor may be huge. I mean, you have no idea.
Yeah. And I mean, while you're talking about, giving to others and forming those relationships, I would love to talk about MCrew for just a second. You've been a mentor. For those who don't know, MCrew is the mentorship program at Tech Fort Worth. It's one of the couple programs that we have. And these mentors, it's a group approach where you have this table of mentors who help one startup company for, I believe, 6 months. So talk to us a little bit about that. How many formal mentorships do you do? Is it MCrew? Do you do others? Do you have informal mentorships? Yeah. How do you do those?
So I mentor a lot of people, as you can imagine. I mean, we've had hundreds of clients, in particular food entrepreneurs. So I mentor a lot of those people. I would say for the most part, 80% are informal mentorship relationships, just giving guidance and being that soundboard and giving feedback, which is important. But I've been wanting to do MCrew forever. And when I first started Locavore, I couldn't really find the time. I was still learning more about the program. And so this is my second session as a mentor, and it really is a wonderful experience. If you guys want to learn more about it, I'd ask Logan, because I know that he has been a mentor for several sessions now. But it's really fun because each one of us mentors has a different background. We approach things differently. We learn a lot from each other. We teach each other. And what an awesome experience for an entrepreneur to have that, advisory board or that mentorship group that MCrew provides.
Yeah. And then let's talk a little bit about your mentors. Who have your mentors been over the years, and Have they been, professional mentors? Have they been personal mentors? Have they led you to Locavore and beyond? How have they played into that?
Yeah, so I have a bunch. Bruce is a big mentor of mine. He's always there. I mean, he's pretty much the best mentor that I know that I can even think of. But also, I mean, I have mentors at TCU from the mental health arena. In the nonprofit world, I have mentors. My best friend Amy's been really great. Hayden Blackburn is one of my mentors. Carolyn Phillips with No Longer Alchemy Pops, but she's been a mentor of mine for a while. It's just, you just find somebody that you are for me, at least, it was somebody that I'm naturally drawn to, whether because they're charismatic or funny or knowledgeable. Hayden became my mentor probably without even knowing it. We're friends. After I heard him speak at Rotary, and I was just enamored with him. I was like, this guy is so smart. And then I just started meeting with him on a regular basis. And, that transcended into friendship and texting and phone calls, and he's wonderful. But the thing about mentorship is, each person offers something different. Some mentors are more supportive, and it's like that in M Crew too. We have some mentors that are more supportive. We have some that are a lot more direct and they'll kick you in the pants. We have others that will share what they've done or share their document as an example, or, it's just, I don't believe in just having one mentor, is I guess what I'm saying. Like, it's kind of almost like you have your personal advisory board.
Oh yeah. I love that. And what do you think is what do you bring to the table that you think is unique to you?
Well, first of all, I'm hilarious. No, just kidding.
I would agree.
I'm kidding. Not like humor is really needed no, I'm just kidding. I'm wildly creative.
Mm-hmm.
I have talents and skills in really weird different areas. It's kind of funny. Bruce had to kind of explain to me that some of the skills that I have aren't the same skills that everybody else has. And for me, since I just operate the way that I do, connecting people and this and that, I just assumed that that's how everybody operates. But he actually sat me down and was like, no, you're one of the few people who actually does that. And it's special and it's a unique trait. And so I've really been able to hone into my strengths, and that includes, efficiency, effectiveness, streamlining your business, branding, marketing, nothing really super analytical, I would say. Mm-hmm. I don't know, business planning, obviously, market research, those kinds of things.
Definitely.
I'd like to think that I bring something to the table.
I would say so. And we're definitely going to dive into, just to give everybody a preview, we're definitely going to dive into her creativity side in a little bit. I have a couple questions there because truly, Cortney, yeah, you definitely bring that to the table. And so I'm excited to dive into that. But
Bruce just wants me to talk about naughty puzzles, and I think we all know it.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Honestly, we brought it up. Let's talk about it. Creativity is one of your superpowers, So is that something you've developed over the years? Is that something you've always had? Has it, developed as each career shift has changed? Talk to us about it.
The concept of creativity for me it's always been a part of my life since I was a little girl. My aunt Tracy, my mother's sister, she's an entrepreneur, and I remember being in middle school when she, went on Oprah for the first time, and has had her collection inside of Target and all kinds of places. And she's an artist, and she's created everything from greeting cards to umbrellas to, bedroom furniture, clothing, anything and everything. And I remember her teaching me when I was really young about how she gets inspired. And a lot of that had to do with, surprisingly enough, living on a farm. And, I grew up in Wisconsin, as did she. And so just the beauty of farm life, the solace of farm life, being there in the moment, and just the grace and whimsy of kind of everything around you. I have just always been really easily inspired, but at the same time, I don't want to put out there that like my ideas are the best ideas, or that you have to come up with your own ideas for things to work, because you don't. I'm also a big believer of, don't reinvent the wheel. Like if somebody else is doing something in San Francisco and nobody's doing it here, bring it here and put a twist on it. Like why not? They have already proven the concept there. So there's nothing wrong with, bringing something here. But really, creativity for me, I think at TCU, we all had to do the Strengths Finder, the Strengths Quest. And my number one is futuristic. My number two is ideation. And number three is strategic. So
what a perfect mix.
Yeah. So the ideation, it really, a lot of it comes out of necessity. I mean, look at all the products that are around us. Here I have a bottle of sriracha that goes with my son's ramen. And why is this here? Because somebody made ramen and decided this isn't spicy enough. You add some sriracha. Well, as we live our lives, each one of us, I'm sure there's been plenty of times where we've all said, man, wouldn't it be nice if this existed? I know one that I thought of, 20 years ago when I was shopping at Sam Goody. It's a CD store, if anybody remembers that. But you know how difficult it used to be getting CDs out of the plastic? It really used to be difficult. You used to have to use your teeth or your fingernails. Well, then somebody created a little device that went all the way around it, and you could just pop the plastic right off. It's the same thing with, like, if you buy liquid body wash. You know how once there's this much left at the bottom, you have to tilt it upside down in the shower? Well, somebody created a little plastic base that it sits in, so that way you don't have to prop it up in a corner and, put a shampoo and conditioner bottle for it to stay there. And so, it really is through invention comes necessity. And so I'm also easily inspired by the wouldn't it be nice if kind of things. And sometimes I run with it, and sometimes I don't.
Yeah. And I mean, I've heard some stories of some things you've run with and some concepts that you've created. You want to share some of those with everyone?
Sure. Yeah. So, first I'll go to Locavore. We started with one commercial kitchen, and within 5 months expanded to one commercial kitchen, one event venue, and 3 other commercial kitchens, which very quickly turned into and a food truck parking lot. It just happens, when you have a business and people are calling you nonstop saying, hey, I have a food truck, and I know that you have a commissary, but I need a place to park it because we have a homeowners association, or theft's really bad. Well, every time I get that phone call, I write it down in a notebook. And by the time I hit 15, I go to my business partner and I say, hey, maybe we should do something with this.
I love it.
But write them down. So an idea that I had last weekend is, and this is so random, but I was going to Home Depot with my husband, and I took a long sleeve shirt and I tied it around my waist. Now with my, COVID 10-pound weight gain, there wasn't as much arms, hanging out in the front as I had wanted. And I was like, man, I really want to wear this, around my leggings, but I need something longer. So I grabbed my husband's shirt and I put that around me, and it was longer. But I thought, gosh, yeah, I'm a little overweight, but there are people out there who are a lot bigger than me. And wouldn't it be nice for them to be able to have, to wear black leggings and have a long sleeve shirt that's made for them with extra long arms to go around their waist? So I'm thinking that I might start, who knows, I might start this line where it's just shirts that are meant to go around the waist with extra long arms. So what do y'all think?
I love it. I mean, I do that all the time with flannels. And if you use the bigger men's clothes, it swallows you up. You know, there's just too much fabric. You just need the arms sometimes. So I love that idea. When you were sharing that with me, I was like, yes, I am all here for it. So,
and when it comes to the patterns, you know, the guys' clothes, you're limited. You know, if a woman wants a floral pattern or chevron or paisley, you know, you'd have a hard time finding that in a guy's shirt. Okay. So anyways,
I love it. Well, thank you for being able to share some of those concepts with us. I know, you know, when I start seeing those sold in stores, I'll know who thought of it.
That's right. I'm the next Sarah Blakely with Spanx. That's what it's going to be.
Exactly.
If anybody knows her, please connect me.
I love it. I love it. I have allergies right now, but I'm also tearing up from laughing. I love this so much. And Cortney, I actually have a couple more questions about you. We have about 6 minutes left before we jump into everybody else's Q&A. So I might rapid fire a few. So let's see. Which ones do I want to do? Oh, okay. Let's talk about who you are in the community. So you are an entrepreneur, you are a mentor, you're a community builder, you're a connector, you're a fabulous teammate. You know, how did you build this reputation for yourself in Fort Worth?
It just takes time. I mean, honestly, it just takes time. And it's the same thing with relationships. Every little bit helps, you know. It's kind of like, if you've ever heard of a relationship is kind of like having a vase, okay? And every time you do something for that person, whether it's you call them or you know, send them a gift, or you go to dinner, do a favor, you put in a marble, you know, and that's what it is. It's putting in a lot of marbles all across town, but all really aimed at creating good and creating positive change. That's kind of been my mission. And so I do that through women's policy forum with Cindy, right? With Rotary Club with Mark, and I serve on a couple nonprofits on their boards for Amphibian Stage and the Wellman Project, and it's just putting those marbles in. You know, it just takes time and patience, and also not being a jerk, you know, and supporting others' ideas, and I have to do that too.
Yeah. Hey, so I've heard of the Wellman Project before, but real quick, I know we didn't plan for this, but do you want to give just like a quick 20 to 30 second overview of it? Because I think it's super cool.
Yeah, so the Wellman Project is the most unique nonprofit that I know of. When I left the nonprofit world, the thought of joining a nonprofit board was not appealing to me. However, when I met these feisty gals, Vanessa and Taylor, I just couldn't help myself. So so the Wellman Project is an environmentally friendly nonprofit that wants to take items that would otherwise go to the landfill or the dump and reuse those items in teachers' classrooms, so that teachers don't have to pay for all of the school supplies and all of that kind of stuff right out of their own pocket. Was that a okay?
Yes, no, that was perfect. Yeah, I love that. And I passed by because they have that bus, right? They have that colorful bus.
The Welly-mobile.
The Welly-mobile. I pass by that almost every single day on the way to work. So
for example, the Welly-mobile, that was painted by Kristen Sobel, who is my friend, the artist who painted our wall, who I met through the business plan competition. I connected her with them, and then she ended up designing and painting that for them. So, I mean, it really is, that's just an example of, you know, paying it forward.
Mm-hmm. Truly. And she's got incredible art all up over Fort Worth. I mean, I
Yeah.
love following her scene. Maybe we'll try to drop the link in the chat so everybody can check her out. But wonderful. Okay, let's see. A couple other quick things.
Well, can I just say one thing?
Yes, please.
Because this kind of goes to my point of, you know, thinking about doing something for somebody else instead of yourself. So Kristen Sobel, when I met her through the business plan competition, I thought she was a cool gal. I thought she was nice. Well, she came up to me during one of the sessions. I think it was like week 5. And she said, "Hey, can we go get coffee sometime?" And I feel awful saying this because we're good friends now. But I turned to her. You know, I had such a new business. I was just trying to like, and we bankroll ourselves. So I was like, ugh. I turned to her and I was like, "I don't need a mural." That's exactly what I said to her. "I don't need a mural." And she was like, "Oh, I just want to be your friend." That's what she said. "I just want to be your friend." Well, we went out to lunch and I said, "Hey, we went to Shinjuku and I said, "Hey, what's one of your goals by the end of the year?" And she said that it was to have her own office. And she said she's been working from home and she just really wants her own office, and that she was talking to One Safe Place about potentially renting an office in their basement. And I was like, "Look, I've had a basement office. It sucks. Okay." I said, "I have spare offices at Locavore. If you want one, it's yours." She was like, "Really?" I said, "Follow me back. We'll go to Locavore." She checked it out. She was like, "Oh my God, this is perfect. It opens up to a big, beautiful courtyard, tons of windows." And she's like, "How much?" And I was like, "Nothing. You can have it." I was like, "You can operate from there. I don't need anything. I have this, you know, spare office." And then, you know, she moved in and then she said, "I'm going to create this, you know, this gorgeous mural for you inspired by you." And she did. And like, look what ended up happening. Like, who would have ever thought, you know, especially with me being such a jerk in the beginning saying, "I don't need a mural." So anyway, I just wanted to kind of reiterate.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I mean, that's cool to know that that mural was inspired by you. Cause I mean, I see that and you walk into Locavore and you feel this just like environment of it's so welcoming. It's so positive. You're going to have a good time no matter who's there, what you're doing. So I love that. And I mean, everybody who hasn't seen it, definitely just Google it. I mean, it's stunning.
It is beautiful.
Stunning.
She's super talented. And I'm glad I didn't mess up our friendship.
I love it. I love it. Well, cool. And we're about to head into some Q&A, but first, Cortney, one of the things that we want to know from you is, you know, what's next? You're a serial entrepreneur. You've had such a cool career. You know a lot of people. You've really made a name for yourself. You know, what do the next couple months and years look like?
Well, first of all, thank you. You know, I'm kind of in a unique spot right now. Things have been running. We were able to pivot through COVID and have a lot of micro events, which our venue is perfect for. The kitchens are back on track. But last fall, we experienced a fire in our garage, which is like a 2-story giant commercial sized warehouse. And so we're in the process of rebuilding. My husband got promoted. He works for UPS. He's a supervisor over the drivers. So as you can imagine, he's been busy since 2019. And then we have a son who's a freshman in high school and, you know, wants to go to MIT. So at this point, I'm honestly thinking about taking a step back from Locavore, and we have somebody who's interested. We have a large organization who's interested in potentially buying Locavore. So kind of working on that right now. But then I think I might just stay home for a little while and garden and come up with fun ideas like long shirts for plus size women.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And for everybody here, you know, what's super cool about Cortney, and we've had in Carolyn Phillips before, she was talking about, I think when she came in, it was a week before she was closing down Alchemy Pops. And she had this beautiful message. I believe it's up on our YouTube now if anybody's interested, but she had this beautiful message of, in the journey of entrepreneurship, there is something beautiful about the closing. And not that Locavore is closing, but you're taking a new step and, you're moving on with your journey. And that is just so cool. And being an entrepreneur myself, I know sometimes we get so sucked into, okay, I have to have 10 things lined up, ready to go, all gas, no brakes, so I'm really glad you wanted to share that and go into that stage of the entrepreneurial journey and focusing on you and recharging, and focusing on your next ideas. Yeah.
Thank you.
So
yeah, it really does feel like a special time in one's business, to be able to kind of have the awareness and forethought that, the vision of the business is still amazing. Our clients are still amazing, but maybe at this point in time in my life, I'm not meant to be the person to bring that vision to fruition. And maybe it's best for me to take a step back and, find the right person to kind of carry on the torch. And I feel really good about that. Really good. It feels really good because, the business it's not about me. It's not the Cortney show. It's about our clients and helping them achieve success.
Yeah. And I mean, you're building something that lasts longer than you being there. And I just think that is so incredible. And that is such a unique perspective. So thank you so much for sharing that and for answering all of my questions. I have a couple more saved off in case we have some extra time at the end, but I just opened back up the chat. So go ahead, everybody, feel free if you have any questions for Cortney, let's go. She's an open book. Go ahead, you can put them in the chat, you can unmute, you can ask. But yeah, we'll get started with those. Cortney, thank you so much for answering my questions. First off, I know sometimes I have so many.
It's been fun. I always think to myself, oh my gosh, talk for a half hour, an hour. There's no way I can do it. But then as you look at the clock, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can't do that.
That time is gone. Yeah, no, truly. Every single Tech Nest where we do the interview style, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already 5:15. I have to open it up. Let's see. Okay, we got some questions coming in, and feel free if you want them to remain anonymous, you can send them directly to me. But let's see. Okay, so 2 questions. How does somebody so creative filter what's doable and what isn't?
Ooh, good one. I like that a lot. Okay. So, and this is something that I do a lot with our M Crew folks. Is when you have a new business, you are constantly bombarded with opportunities, and it can be a thorn and it can be a rose. And, but the most important thing is you can't say yes to everybody, right? Because first of all, what happens is mission creep. Okay. Originally you wanted to serve this population. Then somebody said, oh, what about older adults? What about single moms? And it's kind of like, oh my gosh. Really comes down to prioritizing. Does it fall in line with what you're trying to do? Oh, and there was one other one. Oh, and timing. There's been a lot of times when the idea has been great, but the timing has not been great, right? So I think it comes down to timing. Probably the last thing would be, we've had a lot of people offer us spaces. But if you identify any red flags at all, like, oh gosh, if this person's already difficult to work with, or they're not a good communicator, and, excuse my language, but shit hasn't hit the fan yet, then you're definitely not going to want to be involved. Get involved with somebody who's supportive. I hope that answers it.
Yeah, that's perfect. And then
great question.
There's another question. Oh, okay. So talking about failures and lessons learned, what have you learned from your past failures?
Well, I've never experienced, no, I'm just kidding.
I have never failed ever. So next question.
People always say, don't be afraid to fail. And it's true. But failing still hurts. I mean, it's still, it's not a pleasant feeling. And so one example, I have a bunch of examples, but we Magdalena's has this wonderful supper club. And so when we started Locavore, I said, hey, let's do our own supper club. We'll call it Bite Club. And it was logistically difficult. Okay. It was a lot of work for the amount of money that we made. It was like, okay, let's not ever do this again. And we also partnered with some friends on a food truck parking lot. And we did that about 2 months before COVID hit. And it just never really picked up because people were losing their jobs and trying to save money. And so unfortunately, you know, luckily we're friends, but unfortunately we just had to let it go and focus our energies back into things that are working. So, you know, it's not a great feeling, you know, acknowledge that you tried, and I mean, just don't be scared to try again, but it happens. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Let's see. Mark has a two-part question.
Oh, gosh.
So let's see. Based on the observation that serial entrepreneurs often launch successful businesses and then leave chapter 2 or chapter 4 for another business person to figure out. First question, 1, what other entrepreneurs have you studied or who have impacted you? And 2, do you have other concepts that you'd like to invest in and pick up in midstream and take those to new heights?
Ooh,
so,
interesting.
Yeah, entrepreneurs you've studied or those that have impacted you.
Gosh, there's so many great entrepreneurs out there. I mean, I listen to podcasts, as do a lot of you, I'm sure. I love Gretchen Rubin. I mean, Carolyn Phillips, amazing. There's so many that are really, really good, but we're all just such different people. You know, I mean, we have different families, we have different things that drive us, our businesses have different target markets. So I've studied a lot. But I mean, I guess I'd have to say Carolyn Phillips. I just love her so much. And I loved her business and everything that she did with it. Let me see. What other concepts would you like to invest in? It's interesting. So there was one concept that I mentored him and actually really wanted to invest in. And it's funny because I told Hayden about it too. It was a while back, of course, all before COVID, but this guy has latte carts, really high-end latte carts, and he brings them to, well, he used to bring them to the hospitals, to events, and he would do really well with these, and he wanted to expand, and I totally saw myself you know, becoming a partner of his and really taking that business to the next level. But I'd have to say that what I enjoy most is probably the ideation phase. I sound like a total procrastinator when I say that. I just like dreaming up the business, but I enjoy the creating, the streamlining and all of that, and then I'd love to like hand it off to somebody else to run it. So I don't really see myself getting involved in a business that process has already taken place, because that's where I enjoy spending my time.
Definitely. And I think, you know, when you do have the skill of creativity, it's really helpful to come in when companies are looking for pivots, you know, because then it's almost that beginning stage again, is you have to rethink what's next, you know. So no, I think that's awesome. And yeah, I do think that creativity sometimes in the business world, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, I know I'm not a procrastinator, because I identify with that as well. And it's like, no, I care about everything else, but my superpowers are in that beginning stage. Let's see. Oh, another question just came in. Does loving the ideation phase make it difficult for you to sit down on committees?
Ooh, it can. It certainly can. I do enjoy committee work, not a ton of it, but I do enjoy a little bit of committee work, as long as everybody stays focused, and it's got to be extremely action oriented. I mean, that's the thing that really has to keep my attention. is we're all kind of working together for that common goal, common purpose, instead of having everybody just come up with an idea. What about this idea? What about that idea? One of my favorite things to do with ideas is I really believe that the best ideas are built upon. So Devin, if you came to me and said, I had an idea to, I don't know, come up with cat litter or something, and then I would say, oh yeah, that's a great idea. What about multi-cat, or what about tropical breeze, or whatever. And I'm surprised this conversation has turned this way. But I really feel like the best ideas are built upon and not just one person's idea.
I love that. And, going off of that, when you have a new idea, and that goes into, the customer validation phase of everything and the market research phase. When you came up with Locavore, how many people did you talk to about that? Did you toss it out to your inner group first? Did you do thousands of interviews? What did that discovery look like?
Yeah, so I probably met with maybe around 50 people. I did it for about 4 months. That's what I did full time, was I met with people, had coffee with them, gave them my pitch, and I said, ask me hard questions. Is this concept bad? Who do you know who I could talk to, who, could be a part of it? All of those. And that was, I think, what made our business so successful in the very beginning, is I had this large team of people who had already pretty much wrapped their arms around me and the concept and felt like part of it was theirs.
I love that. I love that. And then one of my last questions for you is, looking back at everything that you've been able to accomplish, what, 2 things kind of stick out? Is there a personal achievement that sticks out that you're really proud of, and maybe a professional one, whether that was with Locavore or with TCU or other social work?
Well, I think as I look back, I want to reframe your question, I guess. The best decision that I made was bringing on a business partner. And, it's funny because when I was looking at bringing on a partner, I had a lot of people, and nothing against Carlo, it wasn't personal, but I had a lot of people that were saying, this is a bad idea. You should not do that. This should just be yours. This is your baby. Why would you share it? But honestly, bringing on a business partner was the best decision that I ever could have made. And thanks to him, we've won all kinds of awards. Like, we were just selected again for Mavs 100. We got it last year. Probably the Fort Worth business plan, it would probably be the number one award. I mean, we both won, 40 under 40 and, all that kind of stuff. But I'd say the business plan was probably number one, because on the first day of the business plan competition, after we heard everybody's pitches, I walked up to Carlo and I was like, we're going to win this. I was like, we're going to take first place. And when we won and we were walking up on that stage, he and I were standing on the stairs waiting for them to call us up. And I gave him a hug and I said, I told you. I told you we were going to win this. And I also enjoy being right. So there's that.
I love that. I love that. And that, truly, I think we've had a couple of different entrepreneurs come in and talk about their business partners. And it does seem to be a very common thread in those that are finding success, is they have found a partner through trial and error. Some people have gotten it right on the first shot, but, through trial and error, have that support system. So cool. I'm glad you reframed that and you got to highlight that. That's really cool. And we just hit 5:30. I'm sorry, again, I get talking and I just love what I'm hearing. So we're right at 5:30. Thank you everybody for being here. Cortney, do you have any final words that you thought of that you would like to say before we close out?
Sure. A couple of things. First, don't be a jerk. Like I said, when it comes to relationships, it's about what you can do for that person and not what they can do for you. The second thing would be, if you have a great idea about something, share it. Don't be scared. Don't keep it to yourself, because the people who keep those ideas to themselves never do anything with it. And the reality is, no matter how great your idea is, it's going to be way too much work for anybody else to steal and get it off the ground. And the only way anybody would be willing to put in that work and get it off the ground is if they have the passion for it, and they probably don't. So share your ideas at places like 1 Million Cups, places like Tech Fort Worth, Spark Yard, UNTL Science Center's got a lot of cool stuff going on. So share your ideas. Don't be a jerk. And the third and last thing that I have to say is, don't go at it alone. So if you are looking to start a business, explore the idea of bringing on a business partner, because they have their own network, you have your own network. You might be an alum somewhere, they might be an alum somewhere else. You're tapping into new markets. It has just been an incredible experience having a business partner. And the reason why I got a business partner isn't because I can do it by myself, because I'm pretty darn capable and I can, but it's because when you create a business and a brand, the vision is so much greater than yourself. And if you really want to achieve that vision, then it's going to be really hard to do in a silo. So those are my little nuggets of wisdom. Thank you so much for having me.